Ahoy hoy internet, this is DylanTonic and you are watching Dinner with Dylan. Looks like everybody can hear me, which is good. Let's just pop open T-Chat and pet my cat. This is Galena. She's my occasional co-host and constant nuisance. I love her, but being annoying is her very special talent. Isn't it, sweetheart? Let's turn some more lights on. Alright, so today I am making a mushroom hot pot. The general word for hot pot in Japanese is nabe, which also refers to the saucepan. It's usually a ceramic dish that's cooked traditionally over an open fire, but usually at the table. I don't have one, so since the dish is called nabe and the pan you cook it in is called a nabe, I decided to use a nabe, a French nabe, basically a le creuset pot, because le creuset means the saucepan in French. Ooh. Yeah, seemed a lot fancy before you knew that, didn't it? So, I am soaking some kombu in here for delicious flavors, and now I'm going to bring that to a boil. I'm doing this on this little stove, not just so you can see it, but because usually you do this at the table, or at least some of it at the table. Matches, how do they work? That was thoroughly unhelpful. Try that again. There we go. Wow, that's really roaring. Well, I guess you can't hear it in the background, so that's good. Alrighty, once that gets close to boiling, I'm going to take that kombu out. And over here, I'm soaking some shiitake mushrooms. Now, they're kind of soft, but they could probably do with a little bit more softening. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those out of their fluid. And one of the reasons you're meant to soak dried shiitake mushrooms, and the reason I did this first was because I wanted to make sure they were ready. One of the reasons you're meant to soak them is to get any dirt or scum off them, so I'm just being a little careful when I pull this off. All of this fluid that they're sitting in is going to be deliciously mushroom flavored. In fact, it's often used by itself as kind of a vegan alternative for seafood dashi, but I'm not doing that. So I'm going to actually ladle off some of this liquid and pour it into that pan once this pan gets its shit together. And it is in fact starting to steam. There isn't very much water in here on the kombu, so I might just add a little bit more to stop it getting weird and gross. So obviously this is a mushroom hot pot, and we're also going to need mushrooms. But before that, we're going to have some vegetables that will take longer to cook, like these carrots. I don't particularly like carrots, but at least they'll be cooked in this dish. Also, the shops are closed here today because it's Anzac Day, which is a Memorial Day kind of thing. And so I'm limited in the food that I can use. So I would like to have bean sprouts and a few other things, but I don't have any, so we're limited to carrot and spring onion and mushrooms and a few other things. We'll be fine. Just going to thinly slice these. I got 2 carrots out, but you know what? I think 1 is enough. All right, that's nearly boiling. So I can turn that down now. And I'm I need a little bit more liquid than that, so I'm going to add in some of this mushroom water. That's about 1 cup. And there was already a cup of fluid in there, maybe a little bit more. And then as soon as that's close to boiling, I will dump in the bonito flakes. If you haven't made dashi before, it's pretty simple. You soak kombu seaweed in water for at least 20 minutes, maybe even overnight. Then you bring it to a near boil, pull the seaweed out, and dump in shaved bonito, which is a kind of tuna. Then you let it sit for a while. If you're Iron Chef, what's his face, the Japanese one, you add a shit ton of bonito to make a really rich stock. I'm just adding a single sachet, and I'm not going to grate it myself because I don't have a fancy bonito grater. My cat is losing her shit for some reason. Who knows? Right. So, while we're waiting for that to come back to a boil, meow. Cats. I think if she can smell the chicken that I'm defrosting in the microwave. Oh, yep, we're in a partial panic because the chicken is now possibly available. In fact, I'd say we're close to a full panic. You know what, here we go. Let's pull that out. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, I need 2 thighs, and these are a frozen brick of thighs. Frozen because I took the other half camping, and these would have gone off by the time I got home. So, I will liberate one of these, that one, and that leaves me with 2, and I'll put the others back in the freezer. But first, I'm going to wash my manky hands. Galena is now frantically looking around the kitchen trying to figure out how she can get to the chicken. But you can't, love. It's not for you. It's for the children. And by the children, I mean the viewers. And by the viewers, I mean it's for me, because I'm going to have it for dinner. But you're all going to watch. And really, isn't that the true spirit of Christmas? Watching somebody much more attractive and well put together than you eating fancy chicken. Hi, Grandpays. Welcome to the channel. All right. This is boiling, so let's turn that off. That continues to hiss, which is weird, and now we're going to dump in our bonito. And then basically let that infuse. And I'm going to do that in a separate bowl over here so that I can use the saucepan for my nefarious purposes. Namely, frying up this chicken. It's a 1-pot dish. You want to save yourself dishes, he says, while dirtying a bowl. But nevertheless, you want to save yourself dishes, and you want to save yourself effort. And you also want to capture all of the delicious flavors. So give that a good wipe out. Right, now, light it up again. We're going to have the same trouble we did last time, because everything is terrible all of the time. There we go. Now I'm just going to put in some neutral oil. I don't actually know what neutral oil the Japanese use for things. And whether they have a traditional one. Maybe soybean oil? I don't know if it's possible to get oil from soybeans without a commercial process, though. Huh, I should find out. So, now we have this chicken, which is mostly defrosted. The oil is heating up nicely, and I'm just going to cut, I realize you can't see this, I'm sorry. I'm just going to cut this chicken into bite-sized pieces while my cat loses her goddamn mind. And then I am going to cook these pieces in this oil. And yeah, they're a little frozen. It's fine. They'll defrost pretty quick. After all, this is kind of a wintry, do what you want meal. The idea of having like a recipe even is kind of ridiculous. It's like having a recipe for soup. Soup is more of a concept. Alrighty. Here we go. That's about ready. Sorry about the poor planning of setting things out in my kitchen. I'm hoping to add some extra cameras to my setup, which will help make things easier to see. That's going off like a Jewish foreskin, so it needs a splatterguard. Splatterguard! That is filthy chicken knife. That is filthy chicken cutting board. Wash my manky hands. Galena, stop that! Don't lick the cutting board. Why are you such a little monster? Abyssinians, they're willful little shit. Hush, love. Otherwise the wolves will get us. You're right, soup is a state of mind. You're finally wide awake enough, are you? Well, I hope that's not a bad thing, and that you're not being kept up by bad dreams or distant screaming in the night. You know, normal wakeful things. That is not brown enough to come off yet, so I'm going to keep preparing. I'm going to fry up one of these spring onions. In kind of just little circular rounds. So that'll go in with the chicken, and this one, when I finally shred it, is just going to go in towards the end to give kind of a burst of freshness. Oh, I do like a burst of freshness. Are any of you releasing yet? No, you're all sticking. Great. Oh good, vaporizing oil is going all over my kitchen. My favourite. Right, let's actually turn that up so we get a bit more browning on it. That dashi is steeping nicely. Soy sauce doesn't need to be there. All right. So after a minute or two, that's probably right for me to add that onion. But you know what? I like onion, so I'm going to grab another whole onion, cut that up, and cook it. Or at least half of it. Half of it's probably enough. I have two big problems that happen to me when I cook with onion and garlic. Both of them, I tend to go, you know what, if garlic is good, then more garlic is certainly better. Oh, you have peacocks. My grandmother has a peacock. It's called Alexander, and it likes to fly up onto the roof of their rainforest house, and then, at any disturbance whatsoever, lose its mind. Galena is going to eat it one day. She's convinced of this. She spends all of her time when she's up there staring out the window at Alexander. And Alex, for his part, is incredibly unnerved by this. I'm so proud of my little girl. who has finally decided that rather than trying to get to the chicken, which is not going to happen, she's going to eat her lunch that she begged for earlier today. Hello, Yvette. Is it Yvette or YVTT? Or is this one of those Norse names that is pronounced completely differently from how it's spelt? I mean, Strawberry's fine, but... Alrighty. I do like the look of them, and apparently they don't taste too bad. But I can't... That's the end of that sentence. I can't. You know what oil I was meant to use? I was meant to use sesame oil. So we're going to do that now. I used to have two types of sesame oil, a toasted and a non-toasted. And I bought the toasted at a Korean deli like 6 months ago, and then when I went to use it last week, it had floaty bits in it. Now, I've seen floaty bits in vinegar, and I've seen floaty bits in like stuff that have fermented, but I've never seen it in oil. So that got thrown away, lest I die horrifically. Yeah. This is also supposed to have some ginger and some garlic in it, and it doesn't, because I am out of ginger. Oh, sorry, just ginger, not garlic. It's kind of rare for Japanese food to have garlic. I'm not sure if that's just a taste thing or an odor thing, or if it's because of Buddhist influence, because some Buddhist faiths consider ginger and garlic and things like that to be non-vegetarian or polluting. It all gets a bit odd. The further you go away from India, the roots of Buddhism, the weirder Buddhism gets. For instance, there's a great video on YouTube that shows how fish were considered non-animal, so you could eat them in Japan. And then some monks declared that rabbits were also... you see, sometimes fish jump out of streams, and rabbits jump in the air. That makes rabbits fish, which means they're totally safe to eat. Coincidentally, at the time, there was somewhat of a plague of rabbits. And now we can eat them. Weird. All right. This is starting to smell good. The vegetables are going a bit green. I've probably put too much in this pot because there's a lot of liquid exuding from the ingredients. What was I doing? I was cutting cabbage. A lot of Japanese hot pots have cabbage for some reason. I like to cut it pretty big when going into hot pots because otherwise I find it can be kind of hard to eat. Pull the core out because it tends to be pretty woody, and chop into nice big square bits. Just put those to one side. I can probably flake this, and there we go. Yeah. That'll do. That's probably enough. One of my favorite nabe, which I will make when it gets closer to winter, is a white miso nabe from a nabe cookbook. White miso and pork. And it is astonishingly good. In part because it has half a cup of miso in it. Miso being one of my favorite things in the world. So this is starting to smell completely delicious, which is good for food. That's a thing you often want, is for your food to smell delicious. That's a little cooking tip from me to you. Hey, big dogs. Thank you very much. I guess that making someone hungry is probably the ultimate compliment for a cooking show. So, a lot of nabe also use a Japanese herb called mizuna, which is kind of like a sharp parsley. I couldn't find it last time I went looking, and all the shops are closed today, so I have no chance. But I do have this leftover watercress, which is probably the closest I'm going to get. It would be better if I mixed watercress with parsley, but F it. Alright, this is starting to brown on the bottom, which means all of the water is out, and the sugars are starting to caramelize, which is good, that's what we want. Now I need another bowl so I can pick out the shitty watercress from the good watercress, because this watercress came from my local supermarket, and my local supermarket can't do fresh produce to save its life. But they don't need to, because Australia is a duopoly, and both of the supermarkets suck balls, and Aldi is just depressing to go to. These are the life lessons you're going to learn while following DylanTonic. Speaking of which, hit that follow button, tell your friends if you enjoy the show, chat in the channel, let me know what you do and don't like about it, because I'm new to this whole thing, and I don't want to bore people or have people watch out of obligation. I want you to desperately want to be my friend so that I can say hi if we ever meet in person, and go, and you are? Oh, you watch my channel, that's nice, weirdo. Bye! This is my dream. If you don't have mushrooms, well, so nabe, again, is kind of general purpose soup. Oh, that's getting all kinds of brown on the bottom there. That means I need to add mirin. You should probably measure. Not going to. You could just use meat, just chicken or pork or beef. If you had enough vegetables, you could probably add like mochi rice cakes, the dry ones. That's still not coming off. Oh well, I guess it'll simmer out probably. Just a touch more of that. Yeah, mochi rice cakes. One of the recipes I have just is chicken wings. Actually, the chicken wings ones are great, but you have to bone them. Mine's out of the gutter, boys. But that's not too bad. Yeah, but basically it's soup. Like, you can put anything in it. For this particular recipe, I would just add more chicken. Or even, you know, like big pieces of pasta if you wanted to be kind of fusiony. I'm sure there's a little old Japanese woman who is screaming at me without knowing why, objecting to that concept. But I think pasta is probably fine. It won't be as Japanese as you might want, but, you know, if you don't have the ingredients, you don't have the ingredients. Just don't tell anyone it's authentic. This is not authentic, by the way. I am clearly not Japanese. I am not a master of Japanese food. I just kind of like it, except for seafood, which I don't eat, which kind of means that I'm a complete hypocrite and don't know shit about Japanese cooking. What are you going to do? Call the internet police on me? Don't call the internet police on me. I can't afford to go back there. All right. Now we need cooking sake. Again, in an attempt to deglaze the pan, and also because this is a Japanese dish, which means that sake, mirin, and soy sauce are mandatory. It's starting to smell like Japanese food. I'm not professionally trained as a chef. I really like to cook. So, my mum, I like to be the center of attention as well. Weird. My mum, bless her soul, used to make functional meals that were very healthy. I had skim milk my entire life until I left home. All of our candies and cookies were the diet versions, like biscuits, cream biscuits, diet cream biscuits, diet ice cream. Mum just finds no joy in cooking whatsoever. So when I left home, I suddenly discovered that food has this thing called flavours? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But basically, if you put some effort in and spend time and money on your ingredients and use herbs and spices and such, your food is good. I started watching Good Eats as well, because I had a thirst for knowledge. And Good Eats had a really nice... I studied engineering at college, and Good Eats had a really good like scientific background to the way it discussed food, which I really appreciated. And just that and lots of practice and staring failures direct in the face and not being like, oh, it's probably okay. I mean, I didn't do a very good job, but it's fine. It wasn't fine. This is terrible. Let's find out why it was terrible and make it so it's not terrible next time. So yeah, just skills I picked up all my life. But I think you're right. It is the watercress I reject, which is all of it. I got to use like maybe a third of the packet that I bought, which is good. I've bought watercress before, you've gone to use it a day later and all of it was shriveled. I hate my local supermarket. The problem is it's within walking distance, which means that if I don't walk to it, I'm losing out on a whole bunch of exercise, and I feel really guilty whenever I go anywhere else. I have started going to the other supermarket a 5-minute drive away because it gives me frequent flyer points, which, you know, that's a valid reason to do things, right? Alrighty, so now we're going to add the cabbage. And that's going to add a bunch more liquid as it starts to cook down. But we need even more liquid, which we're going to get by straining out our dashi broth. I'm a firm proponent of the idea that most people can cook. There's a huge marketing campaign by all of the food industry people, basically. And there's some weird sludge at the bottom, which we're going to ignore. Yeah, there's a huge marketing campaign telling you can't cook, cooking is impossible, cooking is a mess, cooking is hard, cooking is time-consuming, cooking is bad. The food you make will never taste as good as it will if you buy their paste, sauce, instant meal kit, Blue Apron, freeze-dried, pre-prepared, Uber Eats, whatever. And it's all bullshit. If you're willing to learn some of the basics, you can pump out food by rote that tastes amazing. If you're willing to learn some of the science, you can make food any recipe. You can look at recipes and go, that recipe isn't going to work, or that recipe will be amazing. And once you've gone to a lot of practice, and I've only been able to do this recently, once you've gone to a lot of practice, you're going to start being able to make your own dishes. I'm basically improvising this. I love cooking breakfast too. It's 2 a.m. Grandpa's. That means it's breakfast time. Go make yourself some pancakes once I'm done. If Princess Leia was a mushroom. I did that joke yesterday. No regrets. That's probably a bad place for this. Alrighty. So I want to cut this. It's Japanese food, right? So everything needs to be edible with chopsticks. And I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. If I had a producer, this would probably be a lot easier, but I don't. So I have some of my eringi, my mushrooms. Some more mushrooms. And I might as well use all of them up. Have any of you ever watched Julia Childs cook? Her omelette episode is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, both because it has her unique way of talking, but how about an omelette? But also because she has this omelette pan she doesn't recommend, and she just kind of pushes it off the bench like she's a cat. The cat in the GIF, particularly the fuck this, fuck that cat, she's just, I don't, yeah. And she does the same with other garbage later on. And just from the different places she does it, it becomes very clear there is no bin behind her. She just doesn't want to deal with whatever the hell it is. So she's going to not deal with it. Alrighty. So now we have to cut up the shiitakes. These I should probably cut into smaller pieces because they tend to be pretty woody, the dried ones. In fact, even the non-dried ones. So I'm just going to put those in to cook with everything else. I recommend it. If her books are anything like her TV show, I still can't make omelettes as good as she can, but I believe that she's not lying. Whereas I've seen a bunch of people, a bunch of like contemporary chefs make things on TV, and I'm just like, that is not going to work. That technique of yours is bollocks. Although, anything that Shirley Corrier says about making things that aren't desserts is 100% correct. Anything she says about things that are desserts have too much sugar in it. And she's also kind of a nervous Nancy about things like how easy it is to split a ganache. I've never split a ganache. Ganache is one of the most simple things you can do in your kitchen. Actually, yeah, if you want to elevate your food, there are a whole bunch of simple rules you can do, Grandpa's. I don't know what your cooking is like. I don't mean to assume that it's bad. I was just thinking from your thing. One thing you want to do is you want to use herbs and spices. You want to use whole spices that you grind yourself, and you want to toast those before you do so. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. It makes your food better though. You want to use fresh herbs when you can. You want... Oh yeah, the mushroom was gorgeous. All right, let me know when you come back, and I will continue to tell my wisdom, all the opinions I have about how to do food. Just probably want to turn that down a little. What about salt? Oh yes, it's a chef secret. You want to add salt. You want to add butter. Let's wait for Grandpa's to come back though, so that we can impart our wisdom onto him. I may have too many shiitakes. Oh well, I'll just have to save some of this for my boyfriend, who is a shiitake slut. All right. That's all simmering nicely now. Speaking of salt. That's almost correct. It probably needs to be lightened up a little, which I'm going to do with a Japanese condiment called yuzu kosho, which is yuzu, a chili, a citrus, some chili, and some salt. There's nothing you can get to replace this if you don't have it, I'm sorry. But you can buy yuzu juice online. It comes in a bottle, you put it in the fridge. Or you could use a mixture of lemon and lime juice and just omit the chili, or add your favorite chili. There isn't a lot of chili in Japanese food though. Yuzu kosho seems to be the only place they really use it, and it's definitely not required. But the yuzu helps give a nice acidity to this dish, which helps cut through the flavor. That is almost perfect. Kinokuniya. It might be. I'm not sure. Welcome back, Grandpas. So, did you want me to carry on with my tips for easily boosting your food skills up? I don't want to be arrogant if you don't need them. Or if you're not interested. I would say that is just about done, which means I can add the rest of the mushrooms. This is the step you might want to do at the table. So you'd take the whole thing to a brazier on the table, and then add the mushrooms, put the lid on, and wait. Now, enoki mushrooms, enoki take. I'm mixing these in with the watercress because I only need to dump them in at the end, and they'll wilt if I put them in now. And I'm going to use a shit ton of them because I have them and they're cheap, and my boyfriend loves them, and I kind of do as well. Fair enough. Does UP do cooking streams? Or do you just hang out with him? Are you in Austin? All right, that's probably enough. This is the point at which I should probably put the lid on, but I left the lid way over there. Oh, there was one other thing I was going to add, but this is probably a bad idea. I just really like them, which is menma, pickled bamboo shoots. I wanted to use regular bamboo shoots, but couldn't find any. So the pickled ones will have to be it. Again, this whole thing was a what have I got in my cupboards and fridge because all the shops are closed today menu. Menma's more of a side pickle, but whatever. Hashtag whatevs. Right. Submerge these in the mushroomy goo. I do like a bit of goo. oyster mushrooms do not want to vanish beneath the waves. Rude. Right, actually I am going to grab the lid because that is obviously going to need to steam. Which gives me a chance to do a little bit of cleanup because nobody likes to do all their cleanup after dinner. Ah, nice. Fair enough. Yeah, it's all like, there's a bunch of really simple cooking tips. Like, oh, I need to finish this for the garnish. Use salt, use fresh herbs, use spices, toast them and grind them yourself if you can. Don't be afraid of using a lot of salt, sugar, fat. Chef pinches are never an actual pinch. They're always like a handful. I think, so I've read a couple of things about how magazine recipes are always lies. They're like, caramelize onions in 5 minutes. A feat that has never been accomplished by anyone. And I'm pretty sure that all of that shit exists because nobody wants to read in a magazine that it's going to take 2 hours to make a recipe, even if it actually is. People get mad if they get told that in advance. But if they don't, then you can just kind of go with the flow. And people will blame themselves, which I think is a really awful kind of trick that publishers do, but capitalism being terrible. You'll have to excuse me for not looking at you when I talk. I have a monitor here to make sure that everything is in focus and that the audio levels are right, and unfortunately it moves, which means that my flighty, attention deficit disorder brain goes, movement, yeah! I have posted a couple of pics. People didn't respond at all, but maybe I just posted at the wrong time. That's possible. Not likely, though. I am very clever. All right, I'm going to finish off this yuzu in here because I think it could do with a bit of acid. I'm going to open another bottle of yuzu for here because I think it could do with a bit of acid. And there's one other thing that is really common to these dishes, these nabe, and it's called shime, and it's the concept of a finishing portion. So once you've eaten everything, you take your shime, which might be noodles or some pre-cooked rice, or in this case, eggs, and you put it back in the pot, put the pot back in the heat, and like, so you, oh good, a bit of shell fell in there, great, delicioso. So you end up with, like in this case, I'm going to have kind of a lightly set egg substance, which will add extra protein, which is good, because I'm currently on a kind of paleo-esque diet. Yes, you are 100% correct, Yvette. The fuck am I doing in here? If you know what the fuck I'm doing in here, leave a comment in the chat. No, seriously, what the fuck am I doing? Yuzu! I remembered. I can brain good. Is this yuzu? This is shibori suidachi. This is suidachi. That's a different citrus, and this is the vinegar form. I have no idea what this tastes like. Let's find out together. That's brisk. I might leave that for another day. Alrighty. Jesus. This is looking pretty good. In fact, this is looking servable. Let's dump in the watercress, the enoki, and the spring onions, and just let them cook for a minute or two while I go and get my chopsticks. Actually, there's probably a little bit too much in this pan. You could probably do with a little bit more liquid. So I'm going to need everybody's help now. You need to tell me which chopsticks to use, because my boyfriend and I have a chopstick problem, which is that when we see nice chopsticks, we buy them. which is fine, except we have so many chopsticks. So, we have the ebonized wood ones. We have the lacquerware ones. This is not going to work very well because they're hard to see. We have the carbonized wood with texture assistance tips that we bought at a fancy department store. We have these ones that look like pencils. And we have these 8-sided ones with interesting little dots on them. And we have a handful of others, but that's probably enough for now. Thoughts? We also have, that's not them. We also have adorable little chopstick rests. Little Year of the Dog dogs and soybeans, but I don't know where they are. So as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist anymore. Oh, that's fine, Grandpace. I appreciate the feedback. I'll post some. That's a good idea. I'm in a different Discord. Okay, so we've got one for pencils, one for the black lacquered ones. Yvette and Condro, we need an opinion. Pencil ones. Alrighty. Use the non-slip ones, which are also the pencil ones. Alrighty. Alright. Oh, fucking righty, cunt. So, it's a mushroom nabe, so let's start with some mushrooms. They've got a nice, meaty, slick texture, a little bit of heat from the yuzu kosho. Some chicken. It's chicken. It tastes like chicken. Actually, it tastes like chicken thickened with the broth, so that's pretty good. The carrot is nice and soft, which is good, because I don't like crunchy carrot. It's one of the few vegetables I don't like crunchy. Still carrot though, so fuck that. Delicious. Pungent enoki mushrooms. Get a shiitake out. This is probably going to burn me. Delicious, woody, savory flavor. And then some cabbage, which is a fair amount of the bulk in here. Oh, hot. This was a mistake. That was a mistake. Ow. Please drink nabe responsibly. Tadosake? I would have tadosake, but A, I'm on a no-carb diet, and B, I only have one bottle left, and I want to open it with my boyfriend. So, but Yvette's right for asking. I would have, well, Condro is right to answer Yvette. I would have sake with this. You could maybe do a light minerally white wine as well. Possibly even sherry, although I'm not really sure about that. I'm going to turn that off. Oh, I haven't tried the bamboo yet. Yeah, possibly even sherry. The menma, the pickled bamboo, is delicious. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And there's probably enough food in there for 3 people because it's packed full of protein and fibrous vegetables. If I had wombok, I might have thrown some of that in there as well. If you wanted something a bit carbier and more substantial, you can cook rice cakes directly in it or cook rice cakes after you're done. Yeah, let me go grab a serving bowl. How often does everybody else cook Japanese? I really like a lot of their food. Not all of it, but a lot of it. As I said, I don't really do seafood, so unfortunately I don't. I'm locked out from a lot of their cuisine, but you know, these are some of my favorite bowls. There are traditional Japanese lacquerware, which means that there's about 40 or 50 layers of the sap of a plant called the arushi, which is a poisonous plant that can only be handled once it's treated properly. And this started out as wood, and they put layer after layer after layer on it until instead of being light, woody wood, it became super shiny, almost plastic-esque. But it's not. The whole thing is natural. It's kind of amazing, actually, how much like plastic it is. In fact, the only thing that's different is that the plastic stuff tends to be a little lighter. Let's get a bunch of all of this goodness. And some of that delicious broth. One thing I'm not sure about is whether this is meant to go with ramen or with rice or not. Most Japanese meals are, but this one seems a little bit different. Maybe you're meant to have rice first? Who knows? The Japanese know, but I'm not Japanese, as I've said multiple times. Oh yeah, this is totally cooked already. In fact, if I'd used different vegetables, I would have had... I wonder if I can sit down, because I'm kind of sweaty, and that's as unattractive as it sounds. If I'd used different vegetables, like I hadn't used carrot, and maybe if I'd... Oh god, I should probably not dick with my tripod. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, my camera's attached to the computer with a USB cable. Let's go for the nuclear option. Of making you look at the table, that was not what I intended. Come on. Come on. There we go. That's kind of horrible, but it'll do. If I can prop it up on something. Come on, you son of a bitch. Success! And a delicious view right up my nostrils. Yeah, if I'd used other vegetables that weren't quite as woody, this would have been done a lot faster. If I didn't want to use chicken, a lot of similar recipes use tofu. That could have cut 5 minutes off. If I'd ditched the homemade dashi for either a pre-made dashi stock or just used a really light chicken broth, which I wouldn't really recommend it. Won't be as good. But if I'd done that, that would have been another 5 to 10 minutes knocked off. Yeah. Delicious. Oh, you don't cook, big dogs? Why not? Cooking is good fun. And it means you get delicious things. And when you cook for people, they start feeling obliged to you, which is even better. That's a good point, Condro. Given that they tend to add carbs for shime, they probably don't eat rice. I was just thinking maybe they add carbs because there's broth left, right? And you want to do something to use it up. Yeah, Grandpa's, I don't really like tofu either. I've tried a lot, and I just don't like the flavor of soybeans. Ironically, I really like tempeh. I really like miso. But just soybeans, like tofu and soy... Nah, bro. A powerlifter who can't cook. Can a lot of powerlifters cook? Is it a common powerlifter thing? I mean, if you watch my channel for long enough, you'll pick some things up. At the moment, I'm eating a lot of protein because I've cut carbs out for a couple of weeks, and I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm fasting, which means often this is the only meal I have for the day, so I want it to be really filling, which means that a lot of the things that I'm cooking, it's pretty easy to add carbs to and make them a complete meal. Thanks, Yvette. I'm really glad you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll be back sometime. Make sure to follow if you need to, and I'll see you again. Yeah, Condro's right. This would be a pretty good... So there's actually a sushi dish called Chanko Nabe, which is specifically made by the sumo wrestlers to help them bulk up. And it's got a lot of protein in it. It tends to be served with copious rice, but you could absolutely do that. Thanks, Grandpays. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I'm glad you had fun. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, reach out to me on the Discord or anywhere else. Let me know. I will go off camera soon. I realize watching somebody eat up close isn't the nicest experience, but I thought people may have some feedback. Hey, Galena, why don't you come and sit actually in camera or wander over there? That's good too. Galena would like some chicken, but I offered her some and she doesn't seem to like the fact that it smells now. Alrighty, everyone. I'll shut down soon. If you have any more comments, make sure they hit the chat in the next minute or so. This is really good. I'm very happy. If you swap the chicken for another protein, a non-animal protein, and didn't use the dashi broth or used a seaweed dashi broth, this would also be totally vegan. Hello, Lady Jibbers. I hope you enjoyed your lurking. I am totally okay with lurking as long as it's not creepy lurking. Well, I guess all lurking is creepy lurking by default, but as long as it was only mildly creepy lurking. Thanks, big dog. I really appreciate it. I know that it's kind of simple for Twitch streams. I don't have lots of fancy chrome and lots of, yay, you followed stuff. But if I get enough people interested, I might start adding that. Maybe. What do people think of all of the fancy chrome? Excellent. Well done, Lady Jibbers. 5 points. You know, I hate to admit this, but I think the shiitakes are the best mushroom, and they're the ones that were dried that I could just pull out of my pantry whenever the hell I want. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Grandpays. Yeah, that's actually what inspired me. I used to be on a chat with a bunch of people who would do video chat, and they were all in America, and I'm not, obviously. And so by the time I would get home, I kind of had heard them in non-video chat talking about the video chat all day, and I wanted to join, but I was also hungry, so I'd start cooking. And I stopped doing it for a while, and people started asking me, when are you going to cook again? I'm like, well, I could just join video chat. They're like, no, we want to watch you cook. We like it. And I'm starting a YouTube channel, and I thought about doing Twitch, but I'm not very good at video games. I like them, I play them a lot, but I suck at them. And there's certain games that I just didn't want to have to narrate over, or have to be good at to be entertaining. So I figured the safest thing to do was to go back to what I know, which is cooking. King oyster are delicious, you're right, Condro. But in this dish, the shiitakes really shine through. The king oysters kind of get lost a little. Last night, I fried some king oyster mushrooms in coffee butter, and they were the bomb. And you're right, fancy chrome probably does mean producers. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for dining with... Ha! You were right, Grandpace. I saw a tip before that, you know, popular games get a lot of views, but there are a lot more people streaming them. Like, is that Twitch trying to let all of the non-popular game streamers down nicely? Yeah, well, thank you everybody for dining with DylanTonic. I really enjoyed cooking with you, and I hope you enjoyed eating with me. Hit follow, watch my feed. I tend to stream around 6:30 p.m. AEST, which is 1:30 a.m. PDT and 9:30 a.m. GMT, assuming nobody has daylight savings active. Yeah. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this stream. If you'd like to watch one live, head on over to twitch.tv and follow me there. You can find my streaming schedule at that bit.ly link, and don't forget to subscribe to me on Twitter, hit the YouTube subscribe button, and ring the bell so you get notified of new videos. Bye!